everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about my college experience and whether or not I regret it. I'm going to start out with the reasons why I chose to go to college, a brief timeline of my college experience, then where I'm at now and what I regret. But I always leave timestamps down below if you want to skip around to a section that's more relevant to your situation. Oh, and in case anyone is wondering, I went to UC Santa Cruz. This is the only college merch I ever purchased, and the reason I got it is only because John Travolta's character wears the same shirt in a scene in Pulp Fiction. But that's the school I went to, UC Santa Cruz, and this is about my experience there. So to start out the story, I basically never saw myself as someone who was going to go to college. I never had any inclination towards going there. I didn't want to. I grew up in a household that kind of pushed for me to go to college. My dad's an engineer, and he got into the business right out of the Navy without a degree. And he says that that's always held him back from getting certain raises and stuff, and he's had the company tell him that if he only had a degree he'd make more money, and he's had to switch companies a lot due to not having a degree and sort of accept jobs that he might not have wanted because he was underqualified, even though he knew how to do everything that someone with a degree could do. So my parents always wanted me to go to college, both me and my brothers, and that was understood since I was a kid. But since I'm a naturally very angry and defiant person, I was very much against the idea of college. I went to a charter high school that's main mission was to prepare students for college. That was its whole thing. And I really was against that. I hated it because I could only ever see myself working a trade. When I first went to high school, I wanted to be a welder because I heard that they made good money. And then I thought, being a firefighter, personal trainer, massage therapist, there's plenty of things that I've thought of doing. Nothing I ever wanted to do involved getting a degree. And so I didn't really plan on going to college until around my junior year when I found out that because of my dad's veteran status, I qualify for free college from the state of California. And so I didn't want to give up free college because that's, not everybody gets that opportunity. It's a huge opportunity, right? I also really wanted to get out of my parents' house. I wanted to be out on my own, and college is just kind of a straightforward way to go do that. So my junior year of college, I went to go look at colleges. The only college I looked at was UC Santa Cruz. It's also the only school I applied for. I was like, all right, if I don't get in, I won't go. If I get in, I'll go. Whatever. I liked the campus. It was very beautiful, lots of trees. The people were very alternative looking, which I was into. So I was like, all right, if I'm gonna go to college, this looks like it's gonna be the right place. I got in, and then after I graduated high school, I was off. And like many 18-year-olds who don't know what they want to do with their life, I didn't know what I was gonna major in. So I went in under sociology, even though I literally didn't take a sociology class my entire college experience. And the first year instead, I just took whatever classes sounded interesting to me. Every quarter, I did a lot of units, way more than is expected, simply because I wanted to try out everything. And during that first year, I thought about being an art student, and I took 3 or 4 art classes thinking, art has never really been my calling, but maybe I could learn a skill in art and then I could get a job out of it or something. But I came to realize very shortly that I didn't really like doing visual art that much. It's fine as a pastime, but in terms of dedicated work towards it, I wasn't really into it. So I stopped taking those classes, and then my second year of college, I decided to be a literature major. And the reason I decided to be a literature major is simply because I thought it would be easy. I was like, well, English is my favorite subject, or the subject I'm best at in high school, so it'll probably be the same in college. And so I just did that because I'm a slacker and I didn't really care that much about being in college. My biggest gripe with college, people have heard me say this a million times, it's basically my catchphrase, is the reason that I'm so against school and college and why it's never worked for me is because it feels like an impediment to my education. And what I mean by that is that I'm the type of person where when I'm left to my own devices, I naturally gravitate towards learning. I like learning new skills. I like learning new processes. I like learning concepts and stuff, not just skill-based things. I just like to learn about the world around me. I like to read on my own time. But whenever I'm in school, it just crushes all my passion and joy for learning. So even though I was doing really well in my classes, I wasn't trying at all. I didn't like it at all. I was pretty depressed. And most of all, I felt like I wasn't learning a lot because my natural downtime habit is to learn things, and school is getting in the way of that. I also couldn't see myself getting any career out of college, even at that point. I ended up taking Japanese for a year, and I was thinking maybe I would just teach English in Japan for a few years after college, and then I could use my degree for something. But even when I thought about that, it wasn't fulfilling to me. When I would fantasize about that, I'd fantasize about my life after teaching in Japan, where in my head I was going to move to Vermont and become an artist. So after that year, I realized that I didn't even want to use my degree to get a job in Japan, and I never wanted to be a teacher or anything, which is basically the other career path for literature majors, is to be an English teacher. And I never wanted that. And so basically, I really wanted to drop out of school because it was pointless to me, and also I didn't like it at all. So right before my third year of college, I decided I was going to graduate in those 3 years because I just couldn't take it. And thankfully I had taken plenty of units before, so even though I didn't plan in advance, it was still possible for me to graduate early. I took a 25 unit quarter that first quarter of my third year, then a 20 unit, and then a 15. And after that, I graduated. During that final year also, I was living in my car. I have an entire video on that. I basically had some bad experiences with roommates, and also the cost of living in Santa Cruz is insane. There was a huge housing crisis and all of that. Like I said, if you want to check out that video, you can. But what's good about my last year of college is it's the only year I made friends other than my first year. My very first year of college, I became very close friends with my roommate, who is now still my friend. And then my last year of college, I got involved in a short film and I made some friends that way, which was really cool. I was also friends with some other people who were living in their vehicles because we had some certain shared community spaces where we would make meals and all of that. I never set out to make friends in college. I'm naturally a pretty solitary person, so it wasn't much of a concern to me. But I am very thankful for the few friends that I made. So basically my last year I was a functioning alcoholic and I thought about dropping out every single day. I hated school so much. I wrote like an entire manifesto of like why I was gonna leave college, and the main reasons, like I said, impediment to my education, it blocked my creativity, I had no free time, I didn't really like what I was learning, I didn't feel like I was really learning. I always felt like if I was reading something, I could learn it a lot faster than having it lectured to me, because that's just kind of the way that I am. And in all honesty, I also felt like staying in school was like a blow to my self-confidence. Like I couldn't follow through on what I truly wanted, which was to leave. And so instead I just was basically telling myself I had no self-worth every day by staying. But I don't necessarily regret staying because I didn't have an alternate plan really. I forgot about this. I was gonna drive up the coast and just go somewhere in Oregon near the beach and live on my car and get a minimum wage job and cut off all ties with everybody in my life and just try to run away because being in school was like literally crushing my soul. But eventually I did graduate. I did not walk on stage or anything like that. It's like I took my final exam, I went to the homeless lounge where all my friends were, we had a huge party, and then the next morning I just drove home, and that was the end of my college. And when it comes to whether I regret it or not, because it was free, technically I don't regret it. But if I had to pay anything more than like $500 a year for it, I feel like it would have been a total ripoff. When I look back, even though it was free, I do kind of wish that I dropped out after that first quarter or that first year if I had something else to work on. But also when I was 18, I just felt so lost and I didn't see any path for my life to take. So it makes sense that I stayed. It's kind of complicated, but to make a general statement, if I had to take on student loan debt, I definitely would regret it 100%. I don't think it's worth it, but because it was free, it ended up being fine. But that's not to say that I don't think college is for anyone, because obviously there are people who get a lot out of college. I've had friends in college who got a lot out of it. And reasons why it may be a good idea for you to go to college are obviously number one, if your career choice requires it. If you're gonna be a doctor, if you're gonna be a teacher, if you're gonna be anything that needs a degree, obviously you should go to college, and obviously that's the right investment to make. And also if you're gonna be doing something that maybe won't get you a job, but you feel like will overall be a very fun experience or fruitful experience for you. For example, maybe if you're a theater major or something and being a part of school productions brings you a lot of joy and you like taking acting classes and you like networking and you like all of that, college sounds like it's a great place for you. And maybe for some people, humanities are good for them as well, even though I didn't use my humanities degree or like it. There was one program of study at UC Santa Cruz that I thoroughly enjoyed, and that's called History of Consciousness, which sounds very hippy-dippy, but that's not what it is. And it's somewhat famous at our school because of like some notable alumni. But basically they only offered a minor or a PhD, no major and no master's degree. But that class basically talked about, the evolution of human consciousness. It was like a mixture of history and political science and philosophy, and I truly enjoyed those classes. And I was a part of a little group there that was trying to get a master's degree for it, like get the school to incorporate a master's degree. And if that was there, I honestly probably would have gotten it just because I enjoyed that subject so much. So there are some subjects that if you're truly passionate about and you think that being in an environment with other people who are passionate about it will help you, then yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But in my experience, the mental health tolls that college took on me and the amount that I got out of it and where I feel like my degree is going to get me was not worth it. And when I left college, I thought I was going to be free, that I would never go back to school. But funny enough, here in 2020, 2 years after that day that I took that final exam, I am back at college. During the COVID pandemic, I was unemployed. I started my YouTube channel, which was very fun, but it's not like I'm gonna make money on YouTube, at least not for a long, long time. And I was just feeling pretty lost. And I'd been told before in my life, like, oh, you should like be in the wine industry or something, like you're so into wine. And I was always like, yeah, I don't know. And then one day in August, I was just like, you know what? I might as well just get my goddamn wine degree. And that night, I just feverishly went on the computer in like a 2-hour like manic phase. I registered for community college. I signed up for the enology and viticulture program. I sent over my transcripts from UC Santa Cruz and all of that. And now I'm at community college getting a degree in viticulture and enology. It's kind of more of a passion project for me, but also something to fall back on if, you know, fingers crossed I could get a job in the wine industry. So I kind of ended up going to trade school after all, if you think about it. It just took me a while to get there. But now I'm doing classes on Zoom, which is weird. And it should only take me 2 semesters or 3 to get my little associates. And I figured it was just kind of a way to pass the time while I'm unemployed and during this COVID thing, and also a way to hopefully get me some kind of job when I'm able to, hopefully next semester. And honestly, despite the fact that I kind of have a direction if I stick with this route of study or whatever, I honestly still don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. I don't know what to do at all. I don't know where I'm headed. Sometimes even now I'm like, I should just drop out of college, which is funny because it's not even like I'm really in college because I already have my degree, but I'm just lost. There is something else I wanted to touch on in this video, and it has to do with the idea of trade school and community college versus a 4-year degree. I come from a middle-class background, and I feel like maybe unintentionally, I was raised to sort of view trade school jobs as lesser than what you could get with a degree, even though no one really knows what a degree can get you, unless you're a doctor, a lawyer, etc. And I always found that to be really bizarre because a lot of trades can get you some pretty good income. If you're a plumber, if you're a firefighter, etc., like you can make a pretty good living for yourself. Like maybe not mansion level, which, let's be honest, people with degrees don't typically get to that level either. But if you want to support a family, if you want to live comfortably, if you live out of a big city especially, you can really have a nice life learning a trade and doing that. But there seems to be this weird stigma in America against it, and I don't really understand why. I think a huge aspect of living in the American dream is that we're sold this idea that the more money you have, the more happy you are. And if you have a trade and a set salary or a set wage, you can't achieve the same level of happiness, when that isn't necessarily true. I think there are types of people who, number one, really care about their career and want that to be kind of their focal point of their life, where it's crucial for them to do something they're passionate about and they don't mind working more than 40 hours a week. They don't mind dedicating all that time to their profession. But there are plenty of people who prefer to have work as just a segment of their lives, as something you do for, 5 to 8 hours a day, make a decent wage, have some friends who you work with maybe, and then after work have time to pursue your passions, have time to go on vacation maybe, spend time with your family if you're a family person. It's a perfectly fine way to live, but a lot of schools, like my high school, push everybody, regardless of their background, regardless of their interests, into the university system, which if you have to pay for college, which most people do, puts you into so much debt that it takes like a decade plus to pay off after you graduate, and your degree doesn't even really mean anything these days, depending on what you get it in. Even degrees that have always been considered safe, such as computer science and all of that, a lot of those jobs, a lot of people are too qualified. Like there's too many qualified people in your field, it's hard to get a job. And as more people get degrees, the less the value of a degree really is. I know plenty of people, myself included, most of my friends honestly, after leaving university, we go straight into minimum wage jobs, just like everybody else. A lot of people never use their degree for anything. But when it comes to high schoolers, the only options you're given for the future is go to college, join the workforce, go to the military, or end up in prison. Like those are your only options. And most people have no idea what the hell they want to do with their lives when they're teenagers, and going straight into a 4-year college, spending like $10K plus a year in tuition, is just not a very financially sound choice for most people. If it weren't for the cost of college, I think it's a totally fine choice to make, regardless of your degree, even if it's in the humanities, even if it's in anything like that. But yeah, to wrap things up, I regret college, sort of. I didn't enjoy it, but it was free for me because of my tuition waiver. If I fell into debt for it, that would have been a big mistake. College may be for you, it may not be for you. I'm not here to tell you that, I'm just here to tell you my experience. I'm now in community college and learning a skill set, and I enjoy it. It's fun. It's the first time I've ever enjoyed school, even with Zoom University or whatever. And that's overall my college experience. Hope you enjoyed watching. Leave a comment down below about your college experience, where you're at in your life, what you want to do, whatever. Check out my channel if you want to see more videos, and I will see you guys next time.